Good morning to all the industry leaders present today. It's my privilege to be here. I think India is in a very enviable position where steel sector is concerned. I'm proud to say that this is one of the only countries, the large steel producers, which has shown a positive growth. I think it is only because of the efforts put by all of you in taking the steel industry ahead. With 126 million tons having been produced in financial year 23, I think we have set the tone and tenor for growing till 2030, the target that we had set for ourselves, and then growing further till 2050 in the Amrit Kal period. I think the ministry has been interacting on a one-on-one with all the steel producers, with all the associations, and anybody who has raised any voice of concern or any matter of concern that needs to be addressed. The minister has set up two bodies, one for the ISPs and one for the secondary sector, to hear what are the concerns of the sectors. And I think in the ministry, we are so busy on a daily basis addressing these issues that are raised to us, carrying these issues to the other ministries, to the ministers. A lot of issues have been resolved, and that is reflected in the robust growth that we are seeing. I'm not saying that all those issues were resolved, but yes, it's work in progress. And yes, we are continuously hearing what needs to be addressed, what needs to be done. I think this is the only ministry which has such a healthy, robust interaction with its industry. In fact, I often say we are the advocacy ministry. It is not a very us and them, it is we together kind of a ministry where we take forward all the demands, all the concerns of the industry. It is only after coming to Ministry of Steel I realized, I'm not even a metallurgist, I must confess, that we realized steel is just not one product. It is so many differentiated products. And the country has been growing in all the steel products. In fact, it is innovative. The kind of products that we are seeing have been growing, and the ministry had launched its PLI scheme to address this issue of alloy steel and specialty steel. There was a little bit of a disappointment there. We had expected more robust participation, a more robust sort of growth in these sectors. Perhaps we overestimated it. Perhaps we did not plan the scheme as you desired, but to address all these concerns, the ministry is now working on a PLI 2, and I think very, very shortly it will be up there for discussions and any amendments that you may want in the PLI 2 scheme to say that how we can, the largest that the government wants to give for promoting the steel industry. I feel everybody must participate and must avail of all the opportunities that are there in PLI 2. Another area of concern and interest and active participation that has been there world over is that of green steel. The whole concept of the world is there for us and how we need to decarbonize, how we need to set lower carbon targets, how we need to address India's and meet India's NDC targets, and where steel has been identified as a hard to abate sector, which one of our colleagues from JSW always likes to call it a possible to abate sector. He says, why do we call it a hard to abate sector? I think everybody in this room is conscious of the efforts that are required, not only for the existence of the steel industry, but for the existence of the whole planet, of existence of the whole humanity. Everybody is conscious as to what needs to be done. Everybody is conscious of what needs to be done, yes, but how it is to be done is sort of a challenge that needs to be crossed by R&D, by academia, by pilot projects, by the industry. And in this regard, Ministry of Steel has set up 13 task forces to address each and every aspect. And everybody is being heard. In fact, anybody has more suggestions or any further topics that they would like to add there, or their voices to be heard, or want to contribute to it, please do participate in these 13 task forces that the ministry has set up. I'm available. You can of course talk to me, but otherwise even on the ministry websites, you'll know who the chairman of these various task forces are, because this is something which is happening. We cannot delay it. Question of technology, what to be adopted is being developed world over. There are no fixed answers. There is a lot of need of commercializing, a lot of sort of academic thought that is going on. A lot of pilot projects are being run, and this is where the future IPs will lie, future growth will lie. So I think everybody here has to be mindful of the fact that decarbonization and green steel or low carbon steel, whatever, I mean, low carbon steel has this connotation for you, which is different from what it means to the world at large. But I think that's another focus area for which I would request everybody in the audience to work on or carry this message across to their back ends and work on to resolve these issues for its existence. People have pegged it to exports, to say that we will, with the new regimes coming up in developed countries, for example with CBAM, etc. But I would not sort of be overly concerned on the export aspects alone. I think it is for humanity, for low carbon emissions, that steel industry will have to sort of lead the path, be responsible, and show that if it is possible, we are there and we shall do it. I would also like to talk about how Ministry of Steel has not restricted itself only to steel. It has also taken initiative to talk to each one of you regarding capital goods, regarding what needs to be done to indigenize the capital good production within the country. I think in this regard, lots of steps have been taken, a lot of smaller producers have been engaged, but there is still a need, especially for the ISP sectors, the larger sectors. We see that a lot of them are the large producers, and with the supply chain disruptions that we saw and are possible even in future for capital good movement, there is a need to now invest, plan, think, produce all the capital goods within the country. And I would invite the steel producers themselves to actually also somewhere engage with the local steel producers, with local capital good producers, to the designers, to the consultants, to work towards indigenization of the capital goods for the steel industry. And I would now not like to limit it only to capital goods industry. What about the spares that go in? When we talk in terms of refractories, when we talk in terms of rollers, there is a huge case for now. I mean, we are the only industry which is going to grow. The world over, these the steel industry is somewhere plateaued out. It is only in India that we see that the growth will be there. As I was saying, we'll go to 300, 500, whatever the market will demand. There will be a growth, because if our per capita today is only 81, as we were informed by World Steel Association yesterday, if we are going to go from 81 to wherever the developed world lies, whether we talk about 160 or 250 or even higher, if steel production has to happen in the country, then the capital goods for producing this steel and then the consumables for producing this steel also should logically be produced within the country. It requires everybody to hold hands and make a concerted effort in this regard to make sure that the domestic designs, production, capital goods, etc. are all in place. For all these, whether we talk about PLI or whether we talk about capital goods, certain amount of R&D, certain amount of skilling, certain amount of drawing board exercise is required. I think I would urge the audience to actually work in that direction. Also, when we look at the developed world, we find that they're getting very protectionist on some of their raw material, that being scrap. We find that scrap movement is going to be, the import of scrap is going to get more and more difficult. It's going to be a challenge. It already is a challenge for certain, like ship breaking. We are already seeing it from EU. We already see for ferrous scrap certain restrictions, in fact quite a bit of restrictions. But scrap is the new gold. Scrap is the waste to wealth. Scrap is where you can actually reduce your carbon emissions, because the steel produced from scrap is actually so much lower on emissions, especially if you go down your IF, EAF route. So there is a need now to actually harness the scrap which exists in the country. Yes, I'm aware that till 2000, the amount of steel production in the country was limited. So therefore, the scrap availability in the country is limited. But whatever scrap that we are now producing, and we've been a large producer at least from 2010 onwards, we have to make sure that we are channelizing each and every part of that scrap and getting it into steel production. Our end of life of products, and I don't limit myself only to vehicles, I'm talking about construction waste, I'm talking about end of life of the white goods waste, every type of waste must find, we need to develop, and that's what currently we are working on with Ministry of Mines also. We are running a very robust program with MSTC, Ministry of Mines, MRAI, for this AKAM, where we talk about how we need to be more and more invested in a circular economy. That again joins the dots back to our environmental concerns. While environment is sort of a pious goal that we sometimes think of, but it's also meeting our commercial requirements. If we have a robust circular economy, and if we can have our scrap coming back into production, and especially in steel where it gets recycled again and again. So it's very important that we be mindful and work towards, and anybody has suggestions in this regard, I always say you're welcome to interact with us. We are all ears. We are currently going to every cluster, every recycling yard to listen about what needs to be done, what needs to be streamlined. We welcome suggestions there also. One of the suggestions that has come, especially from the larger industry, is how we need to have a very robust system of slurry pipelines. As to how slurry pipelines is today not as robust as it needs to be. I assure the audience here, a lot of work is going on in that regard, trying to get all the government departments on board to develop this robust system of slurry pipelines. I think that will work a lot in making our raw materials available in a more scientific, economic, environmental friendly fashion. I think another aspect that the ministry has been working on, I'm sorry to be changing tracks, I've got so much to cover with you, but I just thought we must tell you what all we are working on in the ministry, is the QCOs. I think in the past 5 years, you've seen the ministry increase the number of QCOs from 45 to 145. And as we speak today, another set of, in single digits, some more QCOs you shall see seeing the light of day within the next 6 months. It's going to be uploaded very shortly, we are talking about. So these are all measures where the country now feels that we are in a position to produce quality steel. Our consumers deserve that quality steel. And therefore, once the producers are in a position to produce quality steel, then why should we allow quality, a steel which is not of the best quality to be imported from any other country? So the QCOs that have come in place have served a huge purpose of getting our domestic steel be up to a standard, as well as making sure that the not top quality steel doesn't find its way in the country. India has its FTAs with certain countries. Those FTAs have at times created a situation that we are seeing imports from those countries. But I assure you that we are in constant engagement with the consumers of steel to urge upon them that domestic steel is good enough, and with the QCOs in place, with the kind of, we are the only country which now has multinationals which in steel producing, which are now producing for other countries. So either the foreign large multinationals come up and set shop in the country, or our own MNCs or even other producers who are good enough to produce the steel in the country be used by the OEMs, by the consumers in any aspect. And we routinely share on our websites and portals, the SIM portal, as to what is currently being imported in the country. It's a business opportunity for each one of you. Do have a look at the kind of steel that is coming in, and that's a business opportunity you need to avail of along with PLI to make whatever imported steel that's being imported, produce it in the country, and I think we will see a huge dip. Currently we are importing only about 6 million tons. Now, in a whole production of 124 million tons, 6 million tons is not too large. but a closer look as to what is coming into the country as a business opportunity. I feel that even that 6 million ton can be reduced to only a few grades which we may or may not be interested in producing. So I think that's pretty much all I had to talk about what we are doing. I would urge each one of you to be mindful of skilling and safety. I think all the large producers, small producers, we must somewhere be aware of how to create human capital. Whoever you are employing, whatever skill set they come with, but there's always a case for improved skilling practices, upgrading their knowledge, etc. And that is something which only y'all can do, because you're at that ground level. From the ministry, we are now activating very strongly our two organizations, BPNSI and NIST. They will step that up. But whatever measures they will take will be very small. I would urge each one of you to keep up the skilling of your personnel, whether it is blue collared or white collared. And secondly, be very mindful of safety. And we are not talking fatal accidents, we are talking loss of man hours. That for you is a business loss, but also each life matters, each hour, the quality of life matters. So I would really request at your level, you all do this. We have told you what we are working on in the ministry. Whatever else you want us to address issues, we are here with you through the day. Do talk to us. We will take that up as a priority area. Thank you so much.
Don't forget to like, subscribe and share the videos.